Oh dear. The crib's been put away and the decorations are down. Oh, and everyone's feeling a bit dismal because of it. Seems a long way since Christmas. In fact, it's 40 days since Christmas. But never fear. It's Candlemas. Candlemas, and I've got new candles. Yeah. Before the days of oil, gas or electric light, people generally depended on candles to bring light into their homes. At Candlemas, they would bring their candles, their store of candles, to church to be blessed. The church would bring out its own candles to be blessed, and people would walk in procession carrying a lit candle during the service. There are all kinds of traditions about Candlemas. There's an old English poem that was supposed to predict the weather, and it went like this: "If Candlemas be fair and bright, come winter, have another flight. If Candlemas be clouds and rain, go winter and not come again." I wonder what it's doing this Candlemas where you are. This led to something that we've all heard about because of the film, and that is on February the 2nd, some people celebrate Groundhog Day, and there's a similar tradition about a groundhog coming out of its hole and something to do with seeing its shadow or not. There are other traditions during Candlemas. In some parts of Europe, particularly France, each family member prepares and cooks a crepe. Crepe is a kind of a thin pancake, whilst holding a coin in their hand, and it's believed to assure wealth and happiness until the next Candlemas celebration. Where that came from, I have absolutely no idea. Candlemas is also known as Candelera in Spanish-speaking countries, and one tradition is that whoever found the baby Jesus figure inside the Rosca de Rein, that is the King's Cake, on Epiphany, January the 6th, that person would be honoured to bring the food to the Candlemas gathering on February the 2nd. I wonder if they did feel honoured or whether they felt joned for it. Anyway. But why? Why these traditions? And why February the 2nd? Well, it's not because it's the midpoint of winter, as some have supposed, even though it is occurring round about this time, but rather because it has a biblical significance. Did you know it's 40 days since Christmas? It's the 40-day point that Jesus was taken in the Bible story to the temple by his parents, and Mary was cleansed according to Jewish custom following her childbirth, and the family gave thanks to God for the child, and an offering was made, a sacrifice was made to the Lord. However, it is not so much this ritual that's being celebrated in Candlemas, but rather how God spoke to and through two people who were in the temple, who were not anyone of any importance really at all. They weren't priests or Levites or teachers of the law, but no, just two very faithful elderly people who'd been praying for ages and ages and ages that the Messiah should come and that they would live to see that day, and they were very old and they were getting towards the end of the days, and they'd been through an absolute terrible time in their lives. And then on this day they do see the Messiah and they're filled with joy. The story of these two old and spiritual people who live close to God and spend much time in the temple is in Luke chapter 2. Oh, and you really want to know about their background, because they've had a rotten time, an absolutely rotten time in their lives. You think you've had it bad with COVID. Well, they've witnessed a civil war between two rival kings of Israel, which should never have happened. And then they witnessed the dreadful results when General Pompey of Rome stepped in the general who in 63 BC put an end to Judean independence and besieged Jerusalem and then broke into the temple and even entered the Holy of Holies. And then they saw another civil war and another siege of Jerusalem. And this time it was Herod the Great doing the damage. And they suffered the privations that resulted from both these sieges and the civil wars. And then they felt the iron rod of Herod the Great, who claimed to be king of the Jews and who the Romans said was the king of the Jews. But he wasn't a true Jew. And they suffered his taxation policy, and they saw money being leached, their money, to support pagan temples and his vanity projects. And they saw Herod rebuild the temple and take the glory, even though it was their taxes paying for it. And to add insult to injury, Herod the Great put this huge, great imperial Roman eagle made out of gold outside of the temple gates. Well, they've gone through a rotten time. When Jesus was brought to the temple by his parents, Anna and Simeon were overjoyed. You can read the account in Luke chapter 2 verses 22 to 40, and when you read these accounts you can almost see their faces light up when they take the child and cradle him in their arms. And Simeon, the old man, says these words over him which bring in this wonderful theme of light. Sovereign Lord, you have, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace, for my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of all nations, a light for revelation to the Gentiles and the glory of your people Israel. And that, my friends, that is why 40 years after Christmas, 40 years, 40 days after Christmas, we celebrate the feast of the presentation of Christ in the temple, and we celebrate it in the Christian church sometimes as Candlemass. So join us on Sunday as Peter Igo preaches on this passage. Have the candles that you use in your house with you, ones for emergencies or the ones for your romantic dinners should you have them, or even the little tea lights that the missus puts round the bath in the bathroom, and we shall pray God's blessing on them, and that you might know Jesus, the light of Christ. Happy Candlemas.